Hi everybody, welcome to episode 45 of the Alexei podcast. Does everybody number them? Do people...
What do you mean by everybody? Podcasters?
Podcasters. Do they say,
sure.
Welcome to episode 77,000 of the Jimmy Shit podcast?
Yes.
With me and my wife,
do.
Laura Shit.
Yeah. Once they get into the hundreds, maybe they only, flag post the milestone ones.
Right.
Like, welcome to episode 800. Oh my God, we've done 800.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's totally normal to announce what episode you're listening to. Of course.
Welcome to our podcast of the twat who introduced austerity and the stupid gobshite who let him get away with it. That's Osborne and Balls, by the way.
Oh, I thought you were talking about... Yeah, Osborne and Balls have one? I thought you were talking about Alexei Campbell's fucking shit.
No, every evil motherfucker in the world.
It's embarrassing. Yeah, it's embarrassing. That guy who you said looks like a monkey has one. Rory Stewart,
yes. Well, his is the one with... His is the one with Alistair Campbell.
Okay. Yeah, it's a best bit of world-destroying cunts all doing podcasts. And here's the Alexei podcast, a beacon of hope and truth.
Yeah. And are we on Amazon? Are we available on Amazon? Are we available on Amazon?
Probably.
All right.
Amazon probably. Let me find out for you. It's a good question. You don't get paid by them, but Alexei podcast on Amazon Podcasts.
No good.
It's free. There are lots of podcasts on there that are through a paywall. Obviously,
right.
Not made a deal with Amazon. You don't have to pay to listen to the Alexei podcast, but you can support us on patreon.com/Alexei podcast.
Yes, in fact, you should.
You should, yeah. Because we don't take corporate money.
No, man, fucking don't. What was it? Bill Hicks called it sucking the cock of corporate interests. We don't fucking do that.
We're even upset that our amazing Christmas message on our YouTube channel, YouTube obviously slaps adverts in front of that. We don't see any. We don't get any money from that.
We don't.
So if you like what we're doing, support our Patreon, link in the description below.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the long-delayed Peter Capaldi part 2, and it's fascinating. Peter talks about the vicissitudes of his career, the highs and lows of being Peter Capaldi, and let's listen to it now. So you were at the old Young Vic and in London, and you were an actor, and you hadn't really. So you were doing all right.
I was doing all right. I just kept doing that. I just was very lucky. Kept getting parts and bits and pieces, and then got bits and pieces on telly and blah blah blah, and just kept trying to learn about it. Really, and I was somewhere in there. It's when I came to see you.
Right.
But I suspect that might have been earlier. That might have been one of my abortive trips to
take
my cassettes around record companies. I may have.
Well, we were only at the comic strip for a year, so it would have
when was that?
1980 to 1981.
Well, that would have been. I would have spent the day going around CBS and Warner Brothers and all those people being rejected by various A&R people. And then drown my sorrows and having come for a laugh and see you in the evening.
Well, I'm glad I could help. Glad I could lift the misery for a few moments. So then you're living in London. So you met Elaine as well.
Yeah.
And she's culturally very similar to you. I mean, then she's from Motherwell.
We did a play together.
Oh, right, which was...
So that's how we met and fell in love. We did the play.
Yeah.
But that was, about 4 or 5 years later.
Where in London were you living?
Kensal Green.
Oh, North London.
Always North London.
Yes.
Because it was close, and a lot of people, Scottish people, lived in North London because it was closer to the M1. And if you were driving, it would take, you could.
You've always I remember you had the ability to recite every motorway service station from here to Glasgow.
That's right. Because we did a lot of driving up and down.
Yeah. And for a while you had an Austin Montego as well that you had the song about.
It was my father-in-law had gifted us it.
That's how bad things were for you at one point.
An Austin Montego, and it was burgundy coloured, rather than the colour of the folio. And it was awful, but I didn't care. I don't care about cars. It was irrelevant to me. It would be relevant to you, but to me.
Oh yeah, it was very important to me.
I just got on doing whatever came along, and I was just very lucky. And I'd do things like, Poirot and Minder. The great doing Minder was fantastic, and got to work with a lot of those. Work with George Cole and Dennis Waterman and all that.
I had the feeling. I mean, I certainly knew who you were when we did. I mean, I suppose partly from that film, but also you were like you weren't a star, I guess, but you were pretty.
I was around,
established actor.
But I didn't know anything. I couldn't see it from any perspective other than from inside me, which was being fairly inexperienced and just be grateful that I had any work.
I don't know if people will understand what you're saying, but to me that seems a really profound description of a particular state. That some performers are very aware of the world outside themselves, and others are not, like you described, really.
Yeah, I had no sensitivity or understanding of how the business worked or what you could do or how you could market yourself or any of those things. And also I sort of didn't take myself very seriously, which was a kind of mistake.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Because had I taken myself seriously, I may have moved more quickly into a realm that was more interesting.
So you were happy with that sort of job in actor thing? I mean,
I was happy. I didn't know what else. When you're an actor, I mean, the thing is, actors really live in eternal hope. Mm-hmm. Because the phone can ring and your life can change.
Yeah.
It's both one of the wonders and one of the curses of it. Because the phone doesn't
necessarily doesn't ring
and transform your life. But it is a reality that can happen. So I guess I was just tootling along, but I was always kind of slightly frustrated by, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be on the set more, and I wanted to, and eventually I wanted to, and eventually wrote and directed.
Yeah, well, that's I mean, a lot of people probably don't know that you won the Oscar for Best Short Film in, what year was that?
I don't know. You're the podcast guy. You're supposed to have this on.
I can remember coming to your house and being very, very jealous and holding your Oscar and feeling, having very mixed feelings about.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Do you remember you used to have in your? Get this magazine that had, it was like a film maker's
magazine.
95. You won an Oscar in 95.
Yeah.
But it was like top 100, top 10 influential people in Hollywood, and I wrote myself in. It was in your toilet. I wrote myself in pencil, like a fairly modest kind of 65A or something. I've just copied the kind of typeface. Yeah.
I think you just made that up.
You made a short in 95, Franz Kafka.
Yeah.
Franz Kafka's It's a Wonderful Life, which was Elaine, my wife, had mistakenly said, instead of saying Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life, which for younger listeners is a film that is often played at Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, that was
It was a strange thing.
Yeah, it was a false dawn in some ways, wasn't it? Can I say that?
A false dawn. I don't think it was a false dawn. It was a.
Well, no, you should.
It was going back to the shoebox.
Yeah.
You know,
no, I don't mean in that sense that it was so good and but I get the feeling that the film industry didn't appreciate your talent entirely. That it's.
I think it was. I remember Elaine saying to me, "It will never be this simple again." Which is that you could have an idea for a little film. I was able to secure a small amount of funding for it. I was able to ask my friends, including Richard E. Grant, who very kindly came along and played a part. I was able to ask a cameraman that I knew. I was able to ask a production designer that I knew. Yeah. And they all came, and because it was a short film, it only took a week. They did amazing work. But they were all working on other big films, so they'd get a little bit of... we shot in Shepperton, which was amazing. And John Beard, who was the production designer, he'd done Brazil, and was working on lots of big movies. Okay. And he just siphoned off a little bit of his production crew from some big movie that he was doing, and they built us a little... I mean, it was all simple stuff, but it benefited from the kindness of all of the people that I asked. But of course, people who do that for a week, but they won't do it for 6 months. They, if you're going to do a proper film, it's going to take a lot of money. And yes, I didn't even know they had Oscars for short films. So again, I was kind of propelled into this world that I had no preparation for. And we went off to the Oscars and won an Oscar, and that was great. And it was all very, it was. The reason I'm pausing is because I'm recalling that people asked me so much about this that at the time that I think probably the stories have become calcified and kind of half-truths have become burnished into tales that would suit whatever journalist I was talking to. So I was just trying to recall the truth of it, which was just great fun.
And that was after you'd done Alexei's sketch show.
I think Alexei's sketch show was the thing that pushed it over the edge.
That's the phone call that changed your life.
That's right. Yeah.
But am I misremembering, you were one of the recurring sketches you did was the drunken time, which is kind of a pastiche of Doctor Who in a way, isn't it?
It's a time tunnel, really.
Time tunnel.
I've not heard of the time tunnel. I always thought it was kind of a... Because it's the same kind of genre as Doctor Who, like jumping from world to world.
No, it's a pastiche of a thing called the time tunnel.
Oh, my bad.
These two guys who...
I thought that was a bit serendipitous.
No.
That was good. That was going to be my big... very clever question that I brought into the interview. It turns out I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
No, that was good fun though to do.
Drunken time is hilarious.
we were very happy working on that show.
It was good.
And then you did Soft Top Hard Shoulder, which is a full-length film with you and
we actually did that before.
Oh, really?
The short film, because I'd written that because I wanted to direct.
Yeah.
But nobody would give me any money to direct it, so we fell in with another bunch of folks who were able to get some money together to do it, and Stephen Schwartz directed that, who's who's done very well as a director since. But again, there was that film was made for no money, really. But of course, at the time, for some reason, they decided not to tell people that there was no money involved, because they wanted it to look as if it was part of a platform of reasonably, professional British films.
Right.
Whereas in fact, it was really cobbled together miraculously from nothing. So I then did the Kafka film because I wanted to be in charge of how things looked and how things were, blah, blah. And then I'd written a script which I sold to Miramax, because when I was there was suddenly a kind of slight kind of feeding frenzy about... but of course, you don't know anything about this. As you're suddenly propelled into this world, and you have an American agent, and suddenly they go...
The Jacobite slipper.
No, this was a different film.
Oh, right.
And so I sold this film called Moon Man to Miramax, and went and thought that was me. I thought I was off to the races then.
But you weren't.
I weren't.
You're there in Crouch End by the reservoir.
No, I'm working, and I'm sort of, I've given up acting, and I'm really just, and Elaine and I are together, and it's great, and blah, blah, and we're having a lovely time, and I'm just working on my script, because I'm thinking I'm like Ridley Scott or something, or
yeah, I had a phase of thinking I was that. I thought I was going to be the British Woody Allen.
Yeah.
I got some telly movies. I mean, you got a lot further down that road than I did, really, but it's not. You're looking at The Fly.
The third guest on the podcast, yeah.
The Fly.
Your career's so long and vibrant. Never boring for too long either, right? Lots of.
Well, I guess that's the way it looks. I don't know. I mean, there were longueurs.
Yeah.
There were long phases of.
When was Prime Suspect?
I don't know.
When you played it?
Prime Suspect 2.
Prime Suspect 2.
Prime Suspect 2.
Yeah, it's got my production crew's looking at it.
Yes. I played it. Yes. The late Paul O'Grady. I was on his show. And he told me how much he had hated me because
Prime Suspect 3.
Was it Prime Suspect 3?
93.
Because he'd been up for this part of which he would have been marvellous at, of playing a transvestite. And it wouldn't happen today, but I got this part.
Yeah.
But Paul, who was I went on his show some years later to promote something or other, and he was very frank about how much he was very sweet. He said he really didn't like me, but then he really liked me because he thought I did it well. So, and he was very sweet. It was very kind of him. But he would have been great.
So I suppose there's the Oscar, and then there's again chugging along in parts and.
Well, there's the Oscar and thinking you're going to do that and be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly told you're not, because Miramax decide after I spent a year working on this film with them, and then they invite me to fly over to New York, and I'm thinking, this is to begin now. We want to see you, blah, blah, blah. So they take me to the office and they tell me, it's not happening. We're not doing this. We don't know how to sell it. It's over. Oh, right. Okay. So what do I do now? I think to myself, because there was nothing.
Yeah.
Because I had no acting career, and I had no. The Americans, as you know, can be quite. You can become quite toxic.
They think failure is contagious.
So I went from that winning an Oscar and selling my script and having a feeding frenzy to directing a dog food commercial in Reading, because that was the only job I could get.
See, I think that's fascinating, really. Yeah, I mean,
So you go, and eventually think I'm going to have to sell the house because there's no acting coming in, because I neglected that.
Right.
I could see that there was a kind of industry that you could have got involved in, which was rewriting other people's scripts. I've discovered this whole world.
Punch Up, yeah.
What do you call Punch Up? Yeah. You could do that. Well, I didn't want to do that.
So is that fly?
It's fucking loud, is what it is.
Not loud flies. The cat's food attracts them, apparently. And the corpse is in the basement.
Elusive as well. Where is it? Can you see? Has anyone got eyes on him?
It's Jeff Goldblum. Hasn't he got enough? Has he got enough of a career? He's always been envious of me.
Yeah. Sure, it doesn't. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
Shut up anyway. So yeah, I mean, I loved. I mean, I was really. I mean, obviously because this is a tale of, highs and lows, but then a kind of massive redemption. Which is justified. So I guess do we come to that next?
But will I tell you the classic tale of the Miramax experience was that when we arrived in New York, we put us up in a big hotel, and I've spent a year working on this script, and we're going to be driven downtown to their offices to, I think, pop the champagne and go, when do we start, blah, blah, blah. Because I've spent a year, they've been on every week going, this has to be rewritten, this has to be written, getting closer and closer and closer and closer. So they flew me to New York, and we get into this limo.
This is Harvey and Bob.
Yeah. Stretch limo, back of a dream car, 20 foot long, chatting away to the driver. I remember his name was Rolf. He's a very nice man, chatting away. What you up to? Well, I said, we're coming here. We're doing our movies. I think it's just about to happen. So we're probably going to be coming to New York because we're going to probably film it here. Because I think that's where I'd originally seen it in London, but I think maybe it's going to be here. And, we're going to start casting and stuff like that. And we get to the offices and I think I'll give him a big tip because that's the world I'm in now, big tip guy. And I said, thanks, Ralph. I'll see you in the future, maybe. He said, no, I'm supposed to wait. I said, sorry. He said, what? He said, I've been told to wait for you. All right, okay, all right. Well, okay, I guess you know what you're doing. So I left Rolf to go into the office and to be guillotined in there. And of course, because when the chief person says, who was Bob Weinstein, said, it's not happening. And then everybody else, they're just ghosts. They have no power. So there's all these other people moving around, all the people that you've been working with. They can't talk to you. They can't do you. They're just ghosts. Yeah. And I laughed. I remember laughing because I thought, this is so. Yeah. Well, I better go back to it. And I went outside, and there was Rolf waiting. And I was still laughing. And he said, what happened? Because he didn't know. So I said to him, it's over. I said, I got no script. I've got no movie. I've got no money. I've spent the money. I said, I got no career. I was really acting. Yeah. And he said, that's really bad. And when I left the car, he gave me the tip back.
Oh, no.
Wow. But I gave it back to him, of course. Yeah. But I thought that was so kind. Yeah. Such a kind.
He's probably seen it before, Rolf. He'd probably seen that happen.
I just thought it was such a kind, very sweet thing to do, a complete stranger to go and do that.
Human love.
Yeah. So that was but it was a good little story.
Yeah. I think when I got fired from the sitcom that I did in the States.
Oh, yeah, tell us about that. That was the Golden Girls, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll do it on another day.
Oh, we've done this. The tomatoes. It's my tomatoes.
Recliner hands.
Well, I remember when you left London, and I remember being part of waving you off on the QE2.
Yes.
In this house, wasn't it?
Next door it was, yeah.
Like we had balloons as like, don't forget us.
I was back in a month.
Don't forget us.
But the guy who first knew I was going to get fired was the guy. There was a kind of sheriff of the parking lot who I remember as in big moustaches, and two Colt revolvers on his hip. I may have imagined some of this. He knew before anybody else knew that, because they tried to move my parking space, and he knew that. He knew I was on the way out because an assault had been made on my parking space.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Dead man walking.
Yeah, you could see that I was not long for this. So you come back to London, everything is, like you say, you got no money, got no...
Yeah, and in fact, that's when Elaine really began producing, because I wasn't really bringing any money in. And we had a mortgage and a child, and so my wife, who was a fine actress, but got obviously at a certain age that becomes less. You get less work, so she turned to. She began reading scripts for the BBC, and then eventually moved into the BBC drama department as a script editor, and eventually became a producer, and has thankfully employed me recently.
Yes, she's been very kind to you. I mean, and again, I'm in awe of. I mean, this is there for another show, really, but I'm in awe of what Elaine did. Really,
yeah.
Breathtaking. I think how good she turned out to be.
And she ended up putting her Vera together and Shetland and all of that kind of stuff. But that was a long road as well for her. So she luckily took up the reins and kept us going.
But then
I didn't sort of know what was happening.
Eventually, redemption, and without jumping too far ahead, I think, redemption appears in the shape of your old neighbour and the man who made your family's furniture.
Yeah, what happened with that was I was, there was a period where I couldn't get arrested, and then when I did get a job, they tended to be quite, I was obviously not the first choice, and they were not great parts, but that was fine. You're an actor, and you go, that's a good. I thought, well, if this is life, that's fine. This is I love being on a set. I love being around these people. They're exciting, and so maybe it's not so big as maybe I would have liked it, or what. But yeah, you just get on with it. And as I say, you always think one day the phone might ring.
And it did.
Well, what happened with that was our man. I was the long version or the short version.
Oh, well, sort of in between, maybe. I don't know. Well, the long version. I prefer the long version.
I don't quite know where to start here. Okay, yeah, so I don't know Armando, but I've seen Alan Partridge and all that, and I think it's amazing, and I know that Amanda's I've seen his show and stuff like that, and I know he's a great talent and everything. But I'm kind of fed up going up for jobs that I don't get, and and I'm asked if I would go for this interview with Armando for this thing they might be doing, this political thing they might be doing. Is there a script? No, there's not a script. Oh, okay. So what have I to do? You've just sort of turn up and just chat to them and see, and they'll tell you what they're doing. But it's about, they think there's a spin doctor, and then they think it might be somebody in that. Oh, okay. And on the day that I went to this audition, I had another audition earlier in the day at Television Centre, and I had to go along. And again, it was another political show, and they said, you've got to go on tape. Now, the part was like a Scottish MP of about my age who looked a bit like me, from Glasgow, and he had 2 scenes. And I had to go on tape, and I looked in the room that they were filming me, and I'd worked with every single person in the room. Every single person. We'd done some job somewhere or other, but I thought, you can't decide.
Right.
You can't just phone me up and say, could you do this?
Yeah, which
you've got to make me go through all this.
I remember this is
they all know.
I remember in Richard Attenborough's Chaplin.
Yeah.
So there's a one short scene where a comedian introduces Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
And they said, will you come in and audition?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck off. I can play a fucking stand-up comedian. I don't need,
Yeah.
I'm not fucking audition. I didn't get the part.
Yeah.
But I just thought, fuck you, making me. I can fucking just give me the fucking part,
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I'd worked with everyone.
Yeah.
I think if
you mean all the actors or the crew as well?
The
producers.
The producers and the director and all that stuff, and the writer. And I thought, well, why?
Stupid little fucking sitcom or whatever it is anyway. Just
because I get it if I'm an unknown quantity.
Yeah. It's insulting.
So that kind of pissed me off.
Yeah.
But then it may have been at that time there was a change in the way the business was constructed, and I think there may have been an executive level.
Yeah.
You had to have whereas in the olden days, like your show or whatever, you just go, well, you would like to do that, which is lovely. Anyway, so I was pissed off anyway because I knew I wasn't going to get it. So if you all got to sit there, why, blah blah. So by the time I got to Armando's interview, I was like, fuck this, I can't be arsed with all this. So, and Armando already had a reputation as a comedy genius. So I was like, okay, give us it. Let's see the comedy geniusness at work, because I'm ready. I've had enough. What is your fucking improvised material that we've got? What is your idea?
Right.
And so he sort of vaguely started telling me the kind of thick of it kind of thing. And he said, oh, maybe we could just do a scene where you're coming in, you're sacking a minister because he's not doing what you want him to do. If you could just do that. I said, what? I said, is there any script? He said, no, you just use your own words.
You fucking
I said, right, fuck.
Educated.
I said, fucking. Another Oxbridge fuck.
Yeah. Fuck hole.
Okay.
Footlights.
Okay, use your own words. Okay.
Yeah. Class traitor.
Yeah. Not at all. He's divine, and he saved my career, and he's great. And he.
So anyway, yeah, but just take us back to that moment where you invent Malcolm Tucker.
Well, I didn't invent it, but I infused the notion with whatever venom or life that was bubbling, and whatever, as you talked about, the rage that fueled you.
Yeah.
I had this stuff, and it just fitted right in. I could just tell this minister to, he kept saying, Adam Tandy, who was the producer, who went on to do Inside Number 9 and all this, who's lovely also, he was reading he was playing the other part. And he kept saying, I just want, if you send me out, will I come back? And I can remember I said to him, it's not fucking Coronation Street, you don't go off and disappear for a few years and shop. You're done. You're fucked. You're out of here. And it was just all this venom that I had about and rage was all deposited in this. And of course it was the right thing for that part. But I didn't know that. I thought I was just blowing it because I thought, I should have kept my shit together a bit more then.
Was he already called Malcolm Tucker, or did they see your performance and go?
I can't know. I think he was called Malcolm Tucker. I think he was called Malcolm. Tucker. Yeah, and I think that Armando had an extraordinary kind of way of working. He sort of, I think they only gave him money for a pilot, but he decided to make 2 episodes because it was just people shouting at each other in offices, and he would not write. I saw him the other night. He said, no, I'm just going to write it and we'll just film what I wrote. He said, not all this other stuff. And all this other stuff was he would work out a plot and he would make you do the plot, but he'd also be making the writers do the plot. So they would be writing feverishly and construct wonderful speeches for this plot. And then you'd have to do perfect versions of the plot, what they'd written. And then he'd release you to do these improvised versions. And he would just collect all this material and he would guide it and push it and see where things worked and didn't work. And he was just generating all this stuff, which he would then construct to make the show, which always fell into the plot that he had, because he'd worked it all out. It was very interesting. It was very different from anything else. So, we didn't really get a script until till sort of the week before we did it, and that was because he didn't like to have a finished script.
And this was, you just thought you were making a pilot at this point, or 2 pilots?
Yeah, and we made a pilot.
Who was that? Was John Plowman the executive? Yeah.
So it was all people that you knew.
Yeah, it was all people.
And then they gave money for another episode.
What year is this now? Talal, what year is this?
Thick of it.
Yeah.
Fucking
2005
or something, right?
2006, I think. But anyway, Armando, the long story of Armando
2005.
is so I get this job and I go home to see my mother, who's an elderly lady in Scotland, and I say, and I'm working with Armando Iannucci, who I think, she may know from reading the papers or whatever. And she said, I know Armando. I said, what? She said, yeah, I know Armando. Armando built that little cupboard in our scullery. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
In his time off from the day-to-day.
He built the little cupboard in our scullery. She said, yeah, in the tenement in Glasgow that I was describing, there was a little scullery there. And Armando Iannucci built he would do odds and ends of carpentry. What are you talking about? And it was Armando's dad.
Right.
Who I think actually went into the pizza business eventually,
right?
But had done various odds and ends of carpentry and had and was a well known in life. And also he would go on my. I had an uncle who's not really your uncle.
Yeah. Yes.
It was called Tony DeMarco.
Tony.
Isn't that the greatest name?
Yeah.
Tony DeMarco. When I was Doctor Who, they used to say you got to have a special, you can't use your own name in a hotel. Tony DeMarco.
Oh, wow.
So I loved Tony DeMarco, and I'd say, and he was a great character, and they all went golfing, and he was dressed in canary yellow, and he was just one of those. It's great. But Tony had a speedboat on Loch Lomond.
I wasn't expecting that.
Speedboat on Loch Lomond. Amazing.
Jesus.
I don't know. And Armando's dad was one of the guys who Tony would sometimes invite up there, so he knew all those people.
So you make these 2 pilots. You then, presumably, Johnny Plowman gives the go-ahead for the series. Mm-hmm. You make the series. You have a fantastic... Was it very thrilling to work on?
It was very thrilling, but it was quite stressful because it was... I think Armando quite liked the idea that it was quite in the nicest possible way, quite a stressful set.
Yeah.
Because the camera kind of recorded that. And also, it was a lot to learn. There were a lot of great lines and a lot of speeches and stuff, but they tend to come in quite late. And also you didn't know... You were sort of making it... You were crafting it. You were sculpting it as you went along. It was. I didn't really know who Malcolm was or anything like that. I kind of just threw myself into it and tried to do with fabulous writers. I mean, the writers were just amazing.
Yeah.
But the whole ethos of it was about the abandonment of ownership of whatever area you felt was your speciality.
So explain that more. I don't quite understand.
I had, with the experience I had as an actor up to then, I thought I had developed some technique.
Right.
Which was because I directed as well. I knew that if you changed, from a 28mm lens, which is a wide lens, to an 85mm lens, it was tighter. Mm-hmm. So I would hear this going on. I think, well, I'll modulate my performance, so I'll give them an 85mm performance as opposed to 28mm performance, which is a kind of falsification. It's
there are actors who do that.
Yeah,
really.
and it's not unwise to be attuned to that, but really you should be more attuned to the truth of what it is you're trying to present, to act. So
that was a kind of a Damascene moment for you to...
Yeah, because the way they shot the thick of it was they shot it continuously, i.e. you started a scene and you kept rolling right to the end of that scene, and they shot it with 2 cameras which were on zoom lenses, which meant that they could be 20 feet away from you, and they could be so tight on you that your face would fill the screen.
Right.
You wouldn't know that.
Right.
From 20 feet, they could also have your full frame from feet top to head. So any notion of having a 28mm performance and a 85mm performance was out the window, because you had no idea what the shot was, how close they were. So all you could do, which was the right thing, which one should always have done, was concentrate on the truth of the moment. Mm-hmm. Because if it works, then that will, no matter what size the lens is, that's what you should be concerned with. So you had to abandon your sense of technical control, and you also had to abandon any sense of thinking, that was funny. It was funnier when I did that, or it was funnier when I did this, because it became very clear that Amanda had better taste than any of us. And anything.
Well, and he knew the totality of it, not first, presumably.
Yeah, but you can't. You have to not go, I know how to do this. So I own this bit, which is the acting bit. It's my department.
Right.
So I will tell you, Armando or anyone else, where where the camera should be or what bit of me you should use. You abandon that, as all the writers did. All the writers, instead of saying, this gag really works here, or this gag, would just say, well, here's all the stuff, So all we did was just put out the stuff.
Wow.
Put out the stuff, and don't be upset when it doesn't make it.
And wasn't that thrilling, or was it just worrying?
It was
Or
both.
did you know
it was both?
You knew? Did you know at the time that you were in the middle of something epochal, as it were?
No, it was. I thought it was pretty special in terms of the mechanics. I thought it was special because the people involved, and Amanda's so extraordinary and individual and clever and funny, and also that he put together the writers were amazingly smart and clever and kind. It was a kind of nice environment. I don't think we knew it was going to be that it would still be around. Mm. I don't think we thought. There was even a slight feeling that it was slightly out of date because Spin Doctors as such, Alistair Campbell and all that had gone from number 10. So the idea that it would still be pertinent all these years later we didn't think about that. I think I knew that I was working with people who were great. I thought, this is great. Work with people who are great. Mm. That's the best advice. Yeah. Easier said than done.
Easier said
than done. But if you work with people who are great, you go, wow, they're amazing.
How did you, Alexei, feel watching it for the first time at home with Linda, seeing your mate Peter doing this role, this iconic role?
The cliched thing is that it's also that what was impressive about it was that it was acting in the purest sense, because Malcolm is so not you. I mean, you are the antithesis of Malcolm, really, that you are, kindest, gentlest, person in the world sort of thing. And to play this monster was just, a testament to your ability, really. That I know you said it was grounded in that frustration with it. Wilf, not now. Yeah, no, I know you liked it, but
well, that's kind of you to say. I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, but it's a gift, really. You know what I mean? If you're given those lines and you're given that trigger, if you're given that fuel, and my job was just to run with that, really, and try and. But it became harder as it went on because he became a kind of quite iconic. Anybody new on the show would sort of decide that they'd have to come from me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You as a comedian will recognise this. Yeah. They go, that's where we've got to cut him off at the at the legs, at the knees. So that became quite tiring so then I'd have to fight. But then that was perhaps okay, but that became less pleasant.
But so that series 1 goes out and you're back up there. You're a star again.
I don't know if that's how one.
Didn't it feel like that?
I didn't feel like that. I just felt it was nice to be in something successful and that people noticed.
Shut him in there. Come here, Wilf. Are you going to go and shut up?
Poor Wilf.
I know, he's old now.
So, how old is he?
We don't know. It's about 15 or 16. Oh. Sorry. So you didn't think, I'm back, baby. This is.
No, I knew it was career changing.
Right.
Which I'd sort of given up any thoughts of career changing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't have that. I mean, it sounds cliched, but that's that whole thing of when you're least expecting it and not
trying so hard and
not thinking, well, things will change. It did all change. And all that happened was that just suddenly you were, whereas before I had been lucky enough to maybe get a part in Midsummer Murders playing a kind of rather kind of dull kind of character, whatever. Now I was red meat. Now I was, evil.
He's okay. He's all fine. Right. Our listeners love Will. Does Will like being picked up?
Yeah.
Come here, bud.
He weighs a lot. So.
Come here, buddy. Hey, buddy. Go on, you're a red meat, huh?
Well, I just that you were. I had a darker and more brutal kind of set of tools available to me that people hadn't seen before. I guess I didn't always have it. I think that it's just one of those things that happens. I couldn't have played that part when I was younger. I could only play it at that point when I got older and got a bit more beaten up.
Yeah.
And life had dealt me some lessons and whatnot. So you've got more stuff to use.
And then how many series did you do?
I think we did 3 or 4, and then we did a film in the Loop.
In the Loop, where you worked with Tony Soprano.
Absolutely, who was fabulous. Which
was also shot in Crouch End Town Hall partly.
Shot in Hornsey Town Hall, yes, which was very exciting. I kept trying to get him to come out and go to Greg's. I thought that would be great. To Greg's, but he clearly was not doing that. But because we shot some. In fact, I saw it the other night on something. I was watching, and they used the Hornsey Town Hall a lot because it's got a kind of Art Deco, and we used it as bits of Washington. So it was great. But he was wonderful. I mean, I was so thrilled to meet him and to work with him. I was so nervous. He came, we rehearsed with him in New York, and he walked into the room, and it's him.
Yeah.
And he's a big presence. But of course, he's not, like I'm not Malcolm Tucker. He's not Tony Soprano.
No.
But at the same time, there was a kind of, there was a weight, a gravity to him. But of course, you're just hooked on every breath that he takes, every word that he says. And he was loved, and he was so kind to people. He was so generous with his time and with. And I remember when we were in New York, everywhere we went, people would accost him and ask for selfies and photographs and stuff like that. And he was always the most, generous about that. You're covered in cat hair.
Bit of cat poo.
Bit of poo, really?
Or something leaked out of him. I don't know what it was.
Oh, really?
It's okay. It's okay.
He doesn't usually leak. That's sad.
I squeezed him too hard, I think. Wow.
I suppose then we jump ahead. I mean, I can remember we had the feeling that you were going to get cast as Doctor Who. I can't remember. And then they televised your anointment on TV, and we watched it live, and we saw your hand, I think, in the ring that you were wearing, and it's screaming, "It is Peter! It is Peter!"
Right. I believe my mother did the same thing. She knew. It's Peter.
Well, we kind of guessed. I think I can't remember it was very exciting for all of us. I think
it was great fun. Yes, I mean it was. I really came up because I was a great fan of the show when I was a kid and blah blah blah. But I didn't, I think because Doctor Who's a big sort of brand. You suddenly get involved in this whole machine that's selling the whole thing, and it's very easy to get sort of lost in that. And then they loved running with the story that I was obsessed with Doctor Who, and that which I had been as a kid, and right through to an uncool age until about 17, I was still sort of mad about it. But then there comes a day where you go, well, that's over now. Do you know what I mean? But in that mad period, I had sort of written to...
It wasn't, yeah.
And sort of I've written letters and stuff that I got to know, blah, blah, blah. And then... But they made a great thing of this, they made it sound as if I'd spent my life mourning the fact that I wasn't Doctor Who. Whereas, in fact, I was just a big... I loved the show as a kid, and I also loved it when it came back, and I'd watch it with my daughter. And I remember I bumped into, and how it sort of happened was, I think I bumped into, Mark Gatiss said to me he was doing a thing called Adventure in Space and Time, which was about the original, making of the original series of Doctor Who. And he said, why don't you come down? I said, I know you're a big fan, why don't you come down and have a look at them? We've got an old TARDIS there and all. And David Bradley's is playing Doctor Who. Who was playing, the Doctor Who?
William Hartnell,
and I had a great day. I went down there, and it was in Wimbledon, and they had in the studio, and David Bradley was amazing as William Hartnell. I said, can I get my photograph taken? Can I get my photograph taken with Doctor Who? Because for me, that was a real resonant echo of my childhood in that little tenement, in the dark with this little blue TV set in the corner with these images and these magical kind of things. And then he said, Mark said to me, he said, how would you feel about being Doctor Who? And I said, well, I think that ship's sailed now, hasn't it? Because Doctor Who was generally a young person. He said, I don't know. And I said, right, okay. I didn't, it sort of snagged there.
Why was Mark Gatiss offering people Doctor Who?
He wasn't offering.
Was he going around? I saw him then. Why didn't he offer fucking...
No, he didn't offer me. Mark had written on the show a lot. And Mark had met quite a few times. It was lovely, and we talked because we had a very similar background, and we loved horror movies and Doctor Who and stuff like that. So we always talked about all that stuff. And he was just, it just sounded like if such a thing were to happen in a fantasy world, would you be interested? And I thought, sure, yeah, well, of course, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then he said, come and have a look at the TARDIS. We went into this, and it was this old
look at the TARDIS.
Come and have a look at the TARDIS. And it was this old TARDIS. Because I loved this old, it was old TARDIS, like old school TARDIS.
Proper old TARDIS. Not like the modern ones. Old digital.
Into my TARDIS.
And I said, can I have a go at it? He said, yeah. So I took my coat off, and I said, started up. All these people started taking pictures of me. There was all these pictures being taken of me playing on this TARDIS. So this is all a bit odd. But I didn't really think that much more of it. And I mentioned to Elaine that he'd mentioned that, and she said, well, that's odd. But then I got a call from my agent saying, how would you feel about being the new Doctor Who?
Holy shit.
And I knew that it was moving then. But then Stephen insisted that I go and do a screen test for them, so I had to go and do that. But I thought I'd blown it completely. I thought I was too old and too...
Was there any bit of you that didn't want to do it?
Didn't want to do it,
too mainstream or for any reason?
I didn't... There was a whole... There's an actual... I was quite happy with the level of fame, if you like, that I had. I could get a seat. I could get a table at the Ivy. I could hang about with Alexei and other...
Because there is a kind of fame qualification to be my friend. Your viewing figures drop below a certain level and you cut off.
But I wasn't bothered by paparazzi. Didn't bother me. There was nothing like that. I just could get on with my... And I was doing okay, and life was good.
But you knew Doctor Who would...
I spoke to David Tennant about it, because both David and Matt were great. And I knew David a bit, and I got to know Matt. And David said, well, your visibility will change.
I lived vicariously through you during those years. I remember when we would go out for coffee and you would have to wear a hat and dark glasses and sort of turn your face to the wall, and I felt the reflection of your fame during those years and basked in it, really. I loved it. I loved you.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't want it myself, but I like sucking up your fame.
I'm sorry, it's a bit less now.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
But it feels, I don't know, it seemed like it was also the apotheosis of kind of Doctor Who mania, really, and that point it became, I don't know whether I'm talking out of turn, but it became this massive global product, which it's not now, or am I being?
I think it will be. I think it is. I think, when I stepped into it, I think they...
this was Stephen Moffat was writing. And
I think I think there was a commitment to maintaining its... It had just been... I think under David, and particularly under Matt as well, it had become globally very successful. So I think globally, the BBC wanted to maintain that thing. Which I think, ironically, is often is corrosive sometimes to the nature of the thing you're working on. So I think you have to be very careful with that. So I think when I stepped into it, that was the level they wanted to maintain it at. And so you're very conscious then of your workload is very extreme, not just from doing physically doing the show and learning the lines and filming every day and being in all those scenes, which is fabulous, but that literally is not enough time to learn all the lines. So by the time you reach Friday, you're sticking them on the TARDIS scanner and stuff like that. And of course, I felt quite bad about that because I thought that at the very basic level, as an actor, you're paid to learn your lines. So to show up and not know your lines is, to me, I didn't feel good about that. But I physically was incapable of learning them all. But everybody got that. Everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So because also you had a lot of duties out with them.
Yeah.
Just filming the show. You had to sell the show and promote it, which was all lovely, but it's full 24/7, and it's.
Well, I remember they flew you out. I mean, you went on a world trip, didn't you? Australia, South America.
One of the greatest experiences of my life was going from, in a week we went from, Cardiff, London, South Korea, Australia, and New York, Los Angeles. It was amazing. We went to South America. I mean, the show was so big in South America. I had no idea. I loved that, to go to Mexico. Have all these kids going crazy for Doctor Who, or Dr. Mysterio, as they call it.
Whoa.
Yeah, I love
really?
that.
It's called Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah, they showed me because they've had it. It's just things you don't know. In Latin America, or in Mexico, they've had the show since it started, which is like William Hartnell.
Wow.
So you will see, they showed me some very early episodes, and they just dub it rather crudely, and they're still and the name comes up, then a big voice goes, Dr. Mysterio. That's so great, Doctor. And they called me Dr. Mysterio and all that. And so we have an episode in there, Stephen wrote, that said The Return of Dr. Mysterio. And I loved all that. And I loved the idea that you could be a little kid somewhere in some kind of poor community and, in the middle of nowhere, and have this magic infused into your life. And so to be part of that is extraordinary. That's the incredible privilege of it, is when it means something to kids and to people. The feeding the brand becomes exhausting, and also I found it hard to, after 3 years, to come up with new ways of. I was kind of caught in a conflict between my instincts of what I had learned, like from Armando and people, about being an actor, about performing, and the way I thought I performed best, and what the show needed, which was to do the same thing.
Same thing over and over again. Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think that's not really what I want to do. But I loved the show and didn't want to phone it in. So that's why I said, well, I'm not, let's not carry on.
So how many series did you do?
I did 3 over 4 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it was great. I mean, what a laugh. I mean, if you can't,
Yeah.
if your job is getting up to go and blow up Daleks, who doesn't want to do that?
And it did promote you into a kind of stratospheric level of fame.
It was a very different level of visibility. Yeah. Which,
it's not quite you, is it? But I mean,
it's, I have to say I'm happier now that it's kind of waned. Because at its most intense, it's I think a lot of it's imaginary. I think there's a fearfulness that comes from being recognised.
You must get Doctor Who fans all the time now, still asking for a picture or something.
Well, they're very sweet.
Yeah, of course. Not that it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But I spent 45 minutes with Sylvester McCoy once, and about 4 or 5 times someone that came up and said, "You're my favourite Doctor" and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, people are very sweet and very nice, and it means something to them, so that's a lovely thing to be part of. But I think, it's a hard thing to, you don't want to disappoint people. I remember Matt saying to me once, you don't want to be the one that, you don't want to be the kid who's dying to see Doctor Who and you're the doctor that goes, that disappoints them.
Or even you're just having a bad day and that's the moment that you just don't have time for it or something.
Yeah, you can't sort of do that because it's not fair to little kids. But it's not an onerous, it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's like nice to be recognised, and it's a very benevolent character. So it's a bit like being Robin Hood or something, or Santa Claus or something. But I'm not in that now. That there was a time when I could walk into a room and it was like a magical creature had arrived.
Yeah.
And that was extraordinary. And also, I take my hats off to the BBC. Without going into details, the BBC would do kind things, and the Doctor would be involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
And that took you to a very special place.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I think we could end there. Or do we want to go on further? What do you think? I mean...
It's up to you. Well, we haven't bloody talked about... Well, but we could end there, of course, yes. But The Suicide Squad is brilliant, and it was the best DC film they've made. And last night I was weeping watching David Copperfield, and that's such a well-known literary character. Like, I don't know if you've played a character like that before, which is from such a well-known text.
I loved...
Similar like Doctor Who, maybe.
Yeah, well, no, I loved... I love Mr. Micawber. And I was always a huge fan of W.C. Fields, who famously to somebody of my age.
Yeah. And Bob Hoskins as well.
Bob Hoskins played.
Did you use them to research? Or
no, well, W.C. Fields was the definitive portrayal of Mr. Micawber. And when you see those Toby jogs and you see drawings of Mr. Micawber, they're really W.C. Fields, who was a vaudevillian comic. From the 30s.
Yeah, extraordinary talent. I mean, very wayward
talent,
individual, but
who was a hugely skilled. He actually began his career as a juggler. Did you know this?
I didn't know. I read a lot about him, but years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, he was he was billed as the greatest juggler in the world of his time, so he developed a physical comedy that was very, very skillful. He did a routine with a pool cue and a pool table, and he did a routine with a golf club, which he made these little short films because he did these were like Broadway. This was his act. Was doing these immensely subtle and hilarious pieces of... is that me? Or is it?
Yes, that's all.
No, it's the camera.
Oh, is it?
Of physical comedy. And then he developed spiel in between that.
Two things I remember about W.C. Fields. He used to pinch other comedians' acts. And then when he saw them doing their acts, which he'd pinched off them, he used to beat them up. Because he'd forgotten that he'd pinched the act off them. And the other thing was that he was so kind of mean or frightened of money that he went around the country leaving his money in various bank accounts under false names.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't remember the false names.
So they still think there might be W.C.
bank accounts. Vast amounts of W.C. Fields money just sitting there.
Yeah.
Buy a notebook. Write down the names.
Yeah, I think he was, he liked to drink.
Yeah. But he was the definitive kind of Mr. Micawber. So yeah, I did want to be in touch with that.
And you did Cockney accent, and it's the Iannucci.
I don't know what the accent was because I thought that the thing about Mr. Micawber is he's always trying to rise in society. Yeah. So he's actually the book he's quite tragic in the book because he's actually going to suffer a nervous breakdown. But as one often gets with Dickens, the poverty of the world is so extreme, and the chances of falling through the cracks are so common, and so he's struggling to stay afloat. But as a means of staying afloat, he feels as if he can be considered a gentleman. So he always affects a kind of rather posher voice, which he doesn't really have any knowledge of. So that fits me. So that was great fun.
It was really
and
good.
Again, a great cast.
An overlooked film as well.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And Dev Patel was fantastic as David, because he just embodied that kind of positivity of youth and all that.
Then making Suicide Squad in Atlanta, and you didn't recognise. Love that story about you and Alice Cooper. Well, this man starts talking to you at breakfast. He recognises you. You wait. It's 6:30 in the morning. Actually, I don't know if we're going. It's 6:30 in the morning. You've gone down for breakfast. It isn't quite open yet.
Yeah.
There's a man in front of you.
Yeah.
And he says, "Are you related to Jim Capaldi?"
Yeah.
He knows who you are.
And I've no idea who
You no idea who he is.
No, he's got a tracksuit on and all that.
He didn't have his makeup on or anything.
Didn't have his makeup on or anything.
When I tell the story, he's got his makeup on, and you still don't remember.
No makeup. He looks very healthy. He's got his tracksuit on, and he goes, "Are you related to Jim Capaldi?" No. So how does he know? And who is this guy? I turn away from him. I think this is kind of an odd, and there's nobody else there because it's like 6:30, and I'm kind of jet lagged or something. And then I realise it's bloody Alice Cooper. It's Alice Cooper. School's out. It's actually Alice Cooper.
You're like, I used to be in a band as well.
Well, what was very sweet was
he was just there playing golf, wasn't he?
He was playing golf.
Yeah.
I said, "Can I get a selfie?" He said, "Yeah, of course." And then he went in for breakfast, and I went for breakfast in a separate corner. But I was able to send a picture to my pal George in Glasgow, who said, I was at his gig at the Glasgow Apollo. No, because Alice had said to me, he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Glasgow." And he said, "Yeah, we did a gig there." He said, "It was fantastic." He said, "It reminded me of Detroit. The people were fantastic." And I was able to send a picture to my pal George in Glasgow, who texted me back and said he was at the gig and it was fantastic.
This was like
So I was able to go. That was at breakfast. So I was able to go and tell Alice my pal in Glasgow was there.
This was some like highly significant gig in the 80s or something.
No, like 1972 or something.
Oh, right, that. Yeah, right.
But who's Jim Capaldi? What was?
Oh, you don't know Jim Capaldi?
Jim Capaldi was played with Traffic, and was a very
musician.
Was a musician.
Forgive me.
Yeah, who was very.
Oh my God.
Well, who was no relation. Unlike Lewis, who is a relation.
Who is a relation? Yeah, the family gene continues.
Did we wrap it up enough? Is that?
I don't know. It can dribble out. Into
How are you doing now, Peter?
You can't talk about some projects.
I can't talk about this.
Yeah.
Not
for legal reasons. Well, sort of for legal, but not.
By the time this podcast is out, the actors' strike might be over, but currently there's the actors' strike, which is why we can't discuss current projects. Yeah. But it's all very exciting. Yeah. And we're very grateful to have you on the show. Well,
it's been a pleasure to be here. This is my first podcast. Thank you very much for making it so. But it's unusual to have a podcast with a friend that you've known for so many years, and his semi-adopted son.
Thank you. I think that's what makes our show a bit nice. Is that there is that you're talking to friends most episodes, people that you know.
Yeah.
And you have so many interesting friends. It's what makes the show.
Oh, he has many.
Oh, yeah, we haven't started with it. I think this is about it. This is, you're as big as it gets, really.
Says that to all of us. Well, the thing is, I think one of the nice things about being and maintaining a friendship is actually going through all those ups and downs.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality.
Yeah.
Cher famously says, dealing with success isn't the problem.
Yeah.
It's dealing with the not being successful.
Yeah.
That's what you have to learn to deal with. And any, the guarantee of any performer is that less successful aim, you know.
In less time, apart from Tom Cruise.
In time. Tom Cruise, the Michael Crawford of his day.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Peter Capaldi.
Thank you.
Well, that was fantastic. Although Wilf says he didn't poo on you. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie.
I never said he put. I said he leaked something.
He said he didn't leak. He said
he
you're
emitted a dark substance onto my shirt.
He says that's bullshit.
Did you hear me complain? I didn't complain.
No,
I was honoured. I said, thank you, comrade, and I put him back on the floor. You hear throughout the episode like clickety clacketing on the floor, and that's not Linda walking around in heels. It's
Wilf.
Wilf's very long nails.
We've had them trimmed now, so expensive cat manicurist who came out to do his nails.
Oh, that's sweet.
And it's let's be all like radio. Talal, it was your birthday at the weekend.
It was my birthday today, actually. It was my birthday party.
Yeah, it's your birthday today. But you had a party at the weekend that you didn't invite me to.
No, I kind of gave you a half-assed invite.
Yeah, but it wasn't sincere, was it? Because you just you thought I'd be,
I wanted the young and sexy people there.
Yeah.
No, Alexei, of course, I would have loved you being there, but I just thought it wouldn't have been your bag. So I didn't want you to come and then feel like, what am I doing here? Because it was a really messy rave up. And we had, and it went really late, and it was very boozy and very silly. And I don't know, I didn't want to force you into a situation you weren't going to be comfortable in.
No,
I'm sorry. I hope you didn't.
It would have. No, if I'd come, it would have had to be all about me, really, until I left.
Well, of course, yeah. That's the one day of the year I'm allowed to have about me. But,
yeah, well, I wouldn't have even allowed you that if I'd been there. Even on your birthday, it would have had to have been about me. So it's probably best that I wasn't there.
There was a projector at this venue, so for the whole night, I had projected on the wall the photograph of me and Jeremy Corbyn in your living room.
All right.
Just as it was just, I thought that would be the best. I thought that was a nice thing. I wanted Jeremy there. I had Jeremy there and not you. I'm sorry. But it was a talking piece, Anyway, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, it was my birthday.
Feliz cumpleaños.
Gracias.
And we've already recorded podcast 46, although obviously we'll let people savor this one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Which is with, who you tell us?
Ellen E. Jones.
Yes, it's lovely.
She has been listening to this show since the very start, and she's an amazing film critic. She has a show on BBC Radio 4. And she reached out to me after we recorded our last episode. I think it was with Jacqueline Rose, yes. And during the intro, we were talking about Equalizer and various films. And Ellen reached out and said she'd love to come talk films and race with us.
Did she enjoy it?
She had a great time. She sent me some really nice messages.
Which you haven't passed on to me.
I should. Okay, I'll forward them on to you. Sorry. She had a lot of really lovely things to say.
I'm your disappointed Jewish mother. You might have passed the messages on to me. I would have liked to have seen the messages to Lam. You haven't passed them on to me.
Can I have 1 week that's about me, please?
No.
It's my birthday week.
We've already established that's not allowed.
Look forward to that. And the next episode is with Ellen E. Jones, Alexei, Ellen, myself talking films, racism. And we go through some of your oeuvre as well.
Yes.
Let's see.
What could be... I feel like I was saying the thing. I feel like we've abandoned Gaza a bit, so we should circle back to that at some point.
Well, yeah.
We haven't abandoned.
It's always fucking yeah. It's hard to celebrate today. I've been alone all day so far, but it's really depressing because as we record this for the last 2 days, Rafah in southern Gaza has been bombarded. People sleeping in nylon tents are having the nylon blown away every half an hour throughout the night while bombs are going off around them.
Yeah,
and
it's still like it's hard to, it is hard to believe that we're living through this. I noticed Jonathan Glazer, who's a director who I like really, you directed this movie, The Zone of Interest, which is about the commandant of Auschwitz. Said something, I saw just a headline saying, I'm worried that we could live through this again, Well, duh. Yeah, we are, mate.
And and only now it's taken this many dead for Lord David Cameron to make a flaccid attempt at politely requesting a ceasefire, if at all, but if it's convenient whatsoever.
Yeah,
a pause in these conflicts.
If you could just bring yourself to stop murdering people, we'd be ever so grateful. If you could just for a minute stop killing children.
I've never liked the King of Jordan, but it was. Did you see the video of him standing next to Biden?
No.
He's in Washington, and they did a press conference, and Biden stood right by him, and he's standing at a podium saying that a ceasefire needs to happen. What's happening is fucked up, and he's essentially berating Biden, very kind of subtextually berating him right next to him. But all of this is too little, too late, and it's past the point of like forgiveness, even.
Yes, it's sickening now. What a world we live in. That's where our media, our legacy media, mainstream media, all they spout is lies, really, endlessly, more or less. It's it's a difficult time to be alive.
And there's no Arab voices I'm hearing.
No, that's a surprise.
Apart from the incredible, beautiful man, Hussam Zumlot,
yes,
the Palestinian ambassador, I don't see, when they have guests on the news, I don't see any Arab voices.
No, even the one speaking for Palestine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've done a segment on it now, really. Not that
we've given our listeners their Gaza fix.
Yeah.
No, it's obviously it's all encompassing, and me and Alexei are troubled and thinking about this all the time.
Every fucking minute of the fucking day. What are you going to do? All right.
On that note, thank you.
I never promised you a rose garden. The song. So yeah, suck it up, listener. All right, bye.
Bye, ma'asalam.
You've been listening to the Alexei podcast. This show is produced and edited by Talal Karkuti. Music by Tarbush Records. Thanks to Audio Boom for hosting us. Please keep your emails coming in at alexeisaylepodcast@gmail.com. Goodbye.